If you play fantasy basketball on the Sleeper app using lock-in mode, this video is for you. We are going to go through some of the players that you need to pay attention to for week 9 of the fantasy basketball season. All right. So over the last couple of weeks, we've been really adamant about providing value for sleeper users. More and more people are falling in love with the lock-in mode. I must admit that I was very optimistic about game pick mode. It didn't turn out well. It's a little too guessy, right? It's like, hey, take a guess at the beginning of the week and see what you got. This gives you a little bit more control over the strategies that you can use, although the strategies are not as tedious or difficult as, let's say a roto league or a category league. It's still a really fun experience. So we got a bunch of guys that we've been reviewing in the top of the fantasy basketball rankings. For example, Nikola Jokic is number 1 on Sleeper right now. Number 2 is Anthony Davis. So we've been looking at those guys. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start in kind of the middle of the pack and talk about some guys that are probably on your roster. Now, if you don't have any of these players or you want me to actually give a review or an overview of your week, I should say, for your players, just comment in this video. I will gladly do it. I'd rather give you the information you need than just grabbing information out of the sky. And unless I have the direction from the community, I'm just going to pick the names from my teams and my league mates' teams. So we're going to start off with someone that's been the talk of a lot of buy low discussions from the Toronto Raptors. My man Pascal Siakam. So for week 9, Pascal Siakam has 4 games, right? So he has 4 games. On his first game, he's up against Charlotte. He's projected to do 23.3. Against Denver, he's projected to do 21.3. Phoenix projected to do 20.2. Utah projected to do 23.03. So Siakam is kind of not lived up to the expectations that many people have for him. Honestly, I'm going to keep it a stack with you. This offseason, I was low on Siakam. And some people were really going hard. Robin, you don't know what you're talking about. You ain't got no credibility. What make you say that? He was this last season. How he gonna be that? With Freddie Van Vliet leaving, he gonna be better. Not really. So, right now for sleeper leagues, he's ranked number 52, which is pretty good for a ranking. Of these games, I would start my week out with Pascal Siakam as safe as possible. If against Charlotte, he drops anywhere in the 20 to 23 range, I would say 20 points, I'll probably lock it in. I would just lock it in because I just don't have the faith in him. If you feel very confident in the matchup that you're in against your league mate and you feel like I'm going to wash this guy any way you look at it, you might want to take a risk and see if you can maybe play his second game or his third game, or lock in, I should say, his second game or his third game. But if he scored 20, I would just lock that in. I would just lock that in. So the next player we're going to take a look at is somebody that we haven't talked about here for sleeper content. Somebody that I love, big time, and has not performed as high as I would like, but still performing very well. Ant-Man, Anthony Davis. In week 9, he has 4 games scheduled. He has a game against Miami where he's projected to do 23.45, against Phoenix 22.9, against the Lakers 26.3, and against the Kings 25.96. So Anthony Edwards, I have way more faith in him than I have in Pascal Siakam. Way more faith. So for me, if his highest, and this is something to look at with your stars, right? If you look at his week, you would think that the Lakers would be the play that you're looking for, right? And that was the problem, I think, with game pick format, is that because you were looking at these projections and you were like locking in your score essentially before you got to see the game, it just kind of made it a little wonky. Where here, we can kind of play it by ear depending on what he does. So for Anthony Edwards, I have faith in letting him go right up until the third game, you know. So I would start the week out. If he did anything under 25 points, I would not lock it in. Second game, if he did anything under 25 points, I would not lock it in. Now, by the third game, if he didn't do anything under 25 points, if he did like 24, I would consider locking it in. Now, if he had a dud, right? If your player has a dud, like let's say he did 10, and the next game he's projected to do 25, if I am up by a bunch, I would just take the 10 because he might get injured. Who do you got on the bench? I'll just take the 10 points. That's if I was up and I knew I was going to win. Now, on the other side of that coin, if I was losing, I would likely, let's see if I can get more. So if he has a dud, chance, and honestly, in some cases, if I'm up too, if I'm up, I might let him play the fourth game as well. You know what I'm saying? But for me with this, what I've seen to have some success in lock-in is that playing the safe bet usually pays off. Rolling your dice to have too many people playing on that Saturday or that Sunday, it's risky business. So that's another thing to keep in mind. As you're playing, if you have guys that you locked in early and you have a bunch of points from them, you have a little more wiggle room in terms of the risks that you can take later on in the week. So that's what we got for Anthony Edwards. Now, so we did Pascal, we did Anthony Edwards. Let's take a look at, man, he is going all the way off out in these streets. For week 9, this guy is going to be cooking with hot grease. My man, De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox has 4 games this week. He has 23.7 points projected to do against the Wizards and Jordan leaving the kids at the pool. Against Boston, he's projected to score 22.6. Against Phoenix, 22.5. And against Minnesota, 24.1. The thing about a player like De'Aaron Fox is that he's wildly explosive in points leagues. Wildly explosive. So it says 23, 22 here. No. If early in the week he does something over 30, I'm locking it in. If he does 23, 22, those first 2 games, I'm passing. And I'm waiting to see what he does the third game. If he has a 22, 25 point game on the third game, then I would just lock it in and be safe. And definitely if he does anything over 30, 40, 50, you lock that in as soon as you see it. So I think De'Aaron Fox is going to have a great week in week 9. Excited to see what he does. Next up, we're going to take a look at another guard, Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet is scheduled for 4 games in week 9. He's scheduled to do 19.5, projected to do 19.5 against Cleveland, 23.818 against Atlanta, 20.97 against Dallas, and 21.84 against the Pels. Fred VanVleet is crazy nice, and he's having a great season so far. He's currently the 36th player in lock-in mode for Sleeper. So very similar to what we did with Ant-Man and what we did with De'Aaron Fox is if I have a big performance from him early in the week and anywhere over 25, 30, I would likely lock that in. And then for his second game, if I didn't lock in the first game and he did anything below 23, I would let him play the next game. Now, on the third game is pivotal in a 4-game week. I would definitely allow him to play the fourth game if he had a dud, unless I was up by big. If I was up by big, I might just lock it in so I don't forget. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, Fred VanVleet is the type of player that he could blow this projected output out of the water. This episode is presented to you by Underdog Fantasy. It is one of the best places to play daily fantasy sports, pick 'em, drafts, the works. All you have to do is use the promo code GAMEPICK and you get yourself a $100 deposit match. Make sure you check out Underdog Fantasy today on your mobile app store on iOS or Android. And don't forget, use the promo code GAMEPICK. So, we're going to look at another player. And this guy, yeah, this is a good one. He's on many people's rosters and someone that honestly has turned into a pretty decent fantasy producer, Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon has 4 games this week. In week 9, he's projected to do 19.9 against Dallas, 19.3 against Toronto, 20.1 against Brooklyn, and 22.2 against Charlotte. So I'm not so impressed by Aaron Gordon where I would be like, no, I'm going to wait it out. Listen, if I get 19 on the first game, I'm taking it. Second game, if I get 19, I'm taking it. 20, taking it. 22, taking it. So anytime a player of Aaron Gordon's status in fantasy does what he's supposed to do in lock-in mode, I am taking it and I am running for the freaking hills. Right? He's currently the 75th overall player in game pick mode. So Aaron Gordon scores what he's projected to score. I'm going to take it and run. Now that you are prepared for week 9 in fantasy basketball for the Sleeper app, check out our next episode about fantasy basketball trades.